Yeah, we got the results via my chart and we read it, but we didn't understand.
Yeah, we didn't. It was in the medical jargon, so we
We
started
did what we
googling.
shouldn't do.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is Googling, which we didn't get any answers anyways.
we didn't get any clear answers, but it did seem like it was cancerous, which was scary, obviously.
And we had to wait until the holidays were over. And I kept on messaging the oncologist like, oh, can you just call me? Just tell me the result.
Yeah,
Because I can't wait until like the following week or whatever.
yeah.
But she was like, no, I want to see you. I was like, okay, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. What's up, folks? What's going on? Welcome to the Spun Today podcast, the only podcast that is anchored in writing, but unlimited in scope. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz, and I appreciate you listening. This is episode 266 of the Spun Today podcast, and in this episode, my lovely wife, Zoila, joins us once again. She's a Spun Today alum. She's been on the podcast in the past. This time, unfortunately, on a sadder note than usual, but a hopeful one at the same time. I've alluded to the contents of this episode during prior episodes where I've said that there's a reason why I've been re-releasing more episodes than normal this year, like putting out the throwback episodes, but I didn't really want to get into the details of it all until and when this episode came to fruition. So earlier this year, actually towards the tail end of last year, as we'll get into during the episode, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. So this entire episode is essentially documenting and reliving all the moments from initial testing and diagnosis, what led up to it, a couple surgeries that she had to have, toughing through chemotherapy, and the eventual light at the end of the tunnel. All heavy topics, but I promise you it's more of a hopeful episode than a sad, depressing one. In short, they caught the cancer super early, and she's successfully gone through all the protocols that she's had to go through. She had to go through 12 chemo sessions. When we recorded this, it was actually, she was done with her 10th, so she had 2 more to go. Since then, she completed those 2 like a champ. And next week, actually, has her final and reconstruction surgery. And thereafter, it's just a matter of regular visits with her doctors or oncologists just to stay on top of things. But the expectation, obviously, is that she won't have to deal with any of this again. And I want to highlight here right in the intro, because my goal for this episode, aside from documenting it for our family and our children to listen to in the future when they're old enough to understand what their mom went through, is to spread awareness and also to give folks that may be going through a similar situation hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel. They can definitely get through something like this. But I want to highlight mainly, and we get into it throughout the episode, but a few minutes into it, so I want to make sure I highlight it here in the intro as well, is the BRCA gene testing, which is what essentially saved my wife's life. So I was peripherally aware of what this was because my wife had done the BRCA gene test and told me about it, I think something like 10 years ago or something like that, 9 or 10 years ago. And what it is a gene test. And my understanding is that it's normally given to women or folks that, and I think women specifically actually, although don't quote me on that have a family history of cancer, mainly like breast cancer, ovarian cancer. And my wife's mom passed of ovarian cancer many years ago. So a doctor had her and her sisters do this BRCA gene test way back then. And the idea is that it tells you and gives you percentages of if you're predisposed to developing cancer, and fairly accurately it can predict this. And it gives you percentages of how likely you are to develop ovarian cancer or breast cancer, and I believe pancreatic cancer as well, or if you're not predisposed, if you don't have the gene for it. Now, back when they did the test, I want to say which is a really important point that I want to make here. Back when they did the test 10 years ago, they were all negative for it. In my mind, and I mentioned this in the episode, I figure, your genes are your DNA, or like I think of DNA when I think of genes, right? And I figure like whatever you're born with is what you have for life. Like it never changes. And that may be the case. However, and I'm not sure if that's the case or not, by the way, but the point is that the testing that we have, the science that we have to test different genes and different gene expressions, or whatever it is the BRCA test is doing, changes over time. It gets more sophisticated, more advanced. So now, when she did the BRCA gene test, she did test positive. So I say that to say, mainly, if you've ever done the BRCA gene test and you already know what it is and it's been years, do another one, because you never know. So she was negative like 10 years ago, thought it was something that she never had to worry about, but she didn't have the results or something like that. So the doctors had her do another one, and we'll get into the reasoning why during the episode. But essentially, this one came back positive, and she had a very, very high chance of developing ovarian cancer, 60% chance, I believe it was, and like a 40% chance of developing breast cancer. And that led us into the surgeries. One of the surgeries that she did, and then during the follow-ups that they put her on every 3 to 6 months for like breast imaging, just to make sure nothing's going on. She passed her mammo and sonogram. That didn't pick up anything, which is another thing I'd like to highlight. Definitely, ladies out there, do your mammograms on a routine basis. Book your appointments around your birthday. That's a good way to remember, like, your physical, your mammals, and whatever you got to do. But also, that didn't pick up anything. But because of that BRCA gene test, they also sent her to do an MRI. And then that is what picked up the cancer. Had she not done that and just waited another year, it would have been growing and spreading inside of her with no detection, essentially. So yeah, I just definitely want to highlight the importance of doing that BRCA gene testing, BRCA. I'll see if I can link to something related to it in the episode notes for folks to check out. And again, in the episode, we're going to get into more details about it, but I wanted to make sure that folks hear that from the very beginning of this episode. Then just want to mention a few other things before we jump in that were not covered in the episode. But first and foremost, a huge thank you to all our family and friends for the outpouring of support, our coworkers on both sides. Like, how they say it takes a village to raise a kid? It definitely takes a village when family is going through tough times like these. From my mom, who's always been a rock in every situation, always there, who last year went through her own cancer scare, breast cancer as well, but had a very, very rare type 0, they called it, because it was a completely encapsulated something or another. I forget the medical terminology for it, but it was completely encapsulated type 0 breast cancer. She had a lumpectomy, a couple rounds of radiation, and the entire time was just like, that wasn't cancer. To my brother and sister-in-law, always there to take the kids for a few hours while I help Zoila deal with things. To Zoila's sisters, same thing. Come over here, cook for us. To my aunts and uncles and cousins, just like constantly calling, checking in, sending gifts. My coworkers as well, which honestly, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. I never even thought of this as a thing, but of course it is one. Like in hindsight is 2020, but like my coworker sent a very generous Grubhub gift card, and they send like gifts for the kids to like distract them, like toys and stuff like that. And the sentiment behind the gift card is like, listen, you guys are going through all of this, and if this could alleviate having to figure out like what you guys are gonna order for or have for food and cooking and stuff like that, then that's what it's for. And it was so clutch. It was something that I would never even think of or hadn't before, but came in definitely so handy. So thank you very much to each one of them. Cousins as well that sent gifts, other friends that sent gift cards for other food places. It's truly a blessing to have each and every one of them in our lives, and really appreciate their support. So thank you. And it's also not lost on me how fragile this type of situation is and how it could have gone left. These things are unpredictable. These situations are, and early detection is absolutely the strongest tool we know of to fight against something like this. It's not lost on me that a month ago, June 30th, my uncle passed away. Rest in peace to Miki, from cancer as well. He had a battle with it over 5 years ago, a different type of cancer, a lymphoma at the time, and then it came back in the form of leukemia before even beginning to be able to do chemo. This time around, he contracted a virus, E. coli, because his immune system was so weak and it was too weak to even start the chemo, and unfortunately he passed. And I say that again just to highlight the unpredictable nature of these types of situations and the importance of early detection and also appreciating what we have when we have it. Health definitely is wealth, as corny and cheesy as that sounds. Oh, and something that I thought was a great touch that we didn't mention during the episode is that while Zoila's getting her chemo sessions, it's like a long day. The process essentially is you go in like at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, you get blood drawn, then you go upstairs, you go see the oncologist to review those blood results to see how your levels are doing, how your body is doing to the chemo. Because if you get depleted enough, they have to do like blood transfusions and to pretty much, check in on how you've been over the past week since your prior chemo session. Then after that, then you go upstairs to get a few hours of chemo. When you're there in the floor where you're getting the chemo infusions, the people are so nice. All the staff, they're like energetic, happy, not grumpy medical type staff folks. It's like they personality must be a requirement to work there, is in my opinion, because everybody was so super sweet and nice and helpful, and they get you warm blankets. They have this machine that warms up blankets. They have snacks, waters, sodas, coffees, pretzels, cookies, the whole nine. Something that was great that they had was a massage therapist that would come each time we were there and do massages. You could get your arms massaged, some nice creams and lavender oils or whatever it is that they use, and you could choose like a back and neck massage or legs, and Zoila would always do her arms. I just thought that was such a like dope touch, and she it was really comforting, and she really enjoyed it. And they definitely do the like ringing the bell at the end when you finish all 12 chemo sessions, and it's like a really emotional moment. Everybody, like all the nursing staff and stuff like that, just like surround her, and she reads off of a little post that they have there, and rings the bell. Everybody's like crying and hugging. It was super sweet, super emotional, very, very nice. And I'll see actually if Zoila's okay with it. I'll post it to the webpage for this episode, which would be spuntoday.com/podcast/266. And I plan to post a couple other pics, like for example, the cold cap therapy that we speak about in this episode. Like I'll show you guys like what the machine and what the cap looks like and stuff like that. If you guys want to go check that out on the website, that was super cool and helped Zoila keep the majority of her hair. And it's something that we didn't know even existed before going through this process. It's called the cold cap therapy. Highly, highly recommend it. It doesn't work on everyone. Thankfully, it did work with her, but I think it's definitely worth a shot. And lastly, I'd say that I'll also link in the episode notes to a prior episode, one of the prior episodes that Zoila did here on the Spun Today podcast, speaking all about MS, multiple sclerosis, which she has. We did that episode years ago. Just her experiences with dealing with that. Yet another thing that she's gone through, which is why I always tell her that she's the toughest girl I know. And I just want to thank my lovely wife once again. Thank you, babe, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. And I know other folks will as well. So thank you. And with that, folks, just want to tell you guys about a very quick way that you can help support this show, if you so choose. And then we'll jump right into the episode. Another way you can help support the Spun Today podcast and also upgrade that stale wardrobe of yours is by going to spuntoday.com/support and clicking on the banner for Stitch Fix. Once you do, you'll enjoy a $25 discount to your first purchase. And the way Stitch Fix works is pretty cool. I use it and I've never been disappointed. You'll set up a profile, you'll put in all the sizes for your clothes, as well as all the different brands and types of clothes that you like to wear. It's really simple and intuitive to set up. They'll show you pictures and pretty much give you a thumbs up or thumbs down option on if you would wear something or not. And you get to select all the brands that you already are used to wearing. With this information, there are thousands of passionate, trend-setting stylists will curate a Stitch Fix box for you. They'll send you 5 items that you get to preview before they mail it to you, and you'll get to select based on the image if you like it or not. If not, they'll replace it with something else, and if so, they'll mail it to you absolutely for free. You can try everything on, and you have a few days to send everything back or keep the stuff that you want to keep. Then you can use that $25 credit that I mentioned towards your purchase of those items. Again, to freshen up your wardrobe and also support the Spun Today podcast, go to spuntoday.com/support and click on my affiliate link banner for Stitch Fix and enjoy your $25 credit. All right, babe. So this year was a rough one for us and for the family, and especially for you. From the very beginning of the year, which I wanted you to help me clarify, because I remember it being around Christmas time or New Year's, but definitely around that area, you were diagnosed with breast cancer. Thankfully, it was detected early, and we are going to get into how a bit later. Currently, as of the recording of this episode, you are 2 sessions away from finishing your chemo treatments. And we're definitely going to get into all that stuff. But first, I wanted to thank you for coming on once again. And also, I wanted to have this conversation because I think it's important for a couple reasons. One, for other folks that may be going through a similar situation to gain knowledge or from your experiences and just generally like strength and hope on like how to get through it, and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, which I think we both see now. And also gain the knowledge of the gene test that detected this to begin with, which again we're gonna speak about. And I don't want to say most importantly or equally as importantly, for our kids when they're old enough to like really understand what's going on, I want them to have this to listen back on and just know what their mom went through and what a hero you've been throughout this whole thing, because you really have been.
Thank you.
So thanks for coming on the Spun Today podcast.
Thank you for having me. I feel so special. Yeah, it feels like
the Dominican Joe Rogan experience.
I know.
So fill it in where it's gotten like fuzzy for me, if you remember. I remember it being around Christmas time.
Yeah, it was Christmas time
when you were initially diagnosed. But let's go back a step to like everything really started when you were thinking about doing the hysterectomy, right?
So I had decided that I wanted to have the surgery to not have children because we had decided 2 was enough.
Which is definitely a good cutoff for me, because I know even way back, you always kind of wanted more, like 3 or 4. I wanted 1 or 2.
I wanted 3, not 3 or 4.
I wanted 1 or 2, but then after actually having the 2 kids, I think you kind of like walked back the 3 to 2, or maybe 3.
Even now, I still want another one. But the situation is so. Well, thankfully, I decided not to.
Yeah,
because that would have been a problem in the future.
Yeah, true. Because then nothing would have been detected. And all right, so let's go back. So you decide to get the surgery to not have kids anymore.
Mm-hmm. So I went to a gynecologist, and they referred me to somebody to have the surgery done. I forget her name, Dr. Show. She was really great. So I went to see her
at NYU Langone, by the way, which is where both our kids were born, and they have been absolutely amazing. Like with every single procedure, everything that you've had done, which we're gonna touch on it throughout this episode, and they've been absolutely awesome. All the doctors, the staff, the facilities itself, definitely high praises.
Yeah. So I went for a visit just to speak about it and to see what my plans were and when I could have it done. And during the consultation, she said since I had a history of cancer, of family history.
Which you had on your mother's side, who had ovarian cancer.
My mother had ovarian cancer. My maternal grandmother had breast cancer, and my maternal aunt also had breast cancer. So it was an extensive family line, on my mother's side that had cancer or had, passed in regards to cancer. So she recommended to do the BRCA test, which is...
That's the gene
test. It like tests you for if you have a mutation in the gene and if you're prone to have cancer.
Right.
And I had done it before, but it was 10 years ago. And I was negative then. But she recommended me to do it again just because she didn't have the results and I didn't have it either, since it was in Massachusetts and I no longer have the information of my doctors or anything. So I was like, sure, I'll do it again just so she could have the results. But I was, carefree because I was negative.
It was negative before.
Yeah, before. So I was like, okay, I'll just do it.
And we didn't even know to factor in, but an interesting point is that at least for me, the way I thought about like genes, it's like the genes that you have are the genes that you have. That's it, which might be the case. I'm not a doctor or a scientist or whatever, but the tools and the technology to detect change and evolve over time. So even though you were negative back then, the technology and, gene identifying, tests that they have now are more sophisticated and able to detect more, which they weren't before. And then that's why, if you want to continue with the results that you got from that.
So it was negative back then. So I was like, oh, thank God. Back then. I was like, thank God it's negative. Mm-hmm. The thing is, if you are positive in the BRCA gene test, you have to make a decision, because that means that you have a higher percentage of getting cancer and dying from it if it's a high percentage. So, and they specify what type of cancer.
It's usually like breast, right? Breast or ovarian or
pancreatic.
And pancreatic.
Pancreatic cancer. So I was negative for all of the back then. Mm-hmm. So I did it's a blood test, and they ask you questions like what was the age that each of the family members died, and when were they diagnosed with the cancer. So I filled that out and I did the blood work, and they told me it would take like 2 weeks. I scheduled I forgot the name of the surgery when you don't want to have a kid.
It was like the tube tying or the fallopian something. It wasn't like the full hysterectomy, right?
No. I mean, they don't do a full hysterectomy unless you have to. They always, push that off.
Okay.
Unless it's necessary.
But it was like one of the other ones, because I know they could like burn off the ovaries or tie the fallopian tubes or.
Now they just burn it or cut it off.
It was like one of those that you had scheduled.
They don't tie tubes anymore. They don't do that.
Okay.
Because it wasn't really effective, and they could just untie themselves, I guess. Mm-hmm. And you're like fully sterilized. Is it sterilized that you call?
No.
Well, whatever. That
you're fixed.
You can't have any more kids. Yeah, you're fixed. So that was the case.
So you had made the appointment for that while you were still waiting.
I had made the appointment, to have the surgery done. And like midway, the doctor called me with the results. She did tell me that I was positive for the BRCA gene 1, and she sent me over the results. So she said, unfortunately, you have to cancel the surgery, and now you have to make a decision what you're going to do. If you're going to remove the ovaries, that was one option, just remove the ovaries. Mm-hmm. And
it was just BRCA 1 or BRCA 1 and 2?
No, it was only one.
Okay.
The BRCA 1. The BRCA 2, I don't know what it is. I really didn't look into it, but it's another type of the gene.
Based on the BRCA 1 results, our understanding is that the likelihood of getting a type of cancer, and I think they give you percentages, mm-hmm. Is a lot higher. So then, because of those results, you have the ability to do preventative surgeries or treatments and so forth.
Exactly.
In general.
Yeah. So I waited for the results to arrive in the mail. And the ovarian cancer, the percentage of me getting that type of cancer was 60%.
Which is huge.
Yeah. And for breast cancer was 40%.
Which is also huge.
It is big.
It is very big. You have like a coin flip of a chance of getting either, and even more, which is scary as shit. I remember. Yeah.
I mean, it was scary because I knew that I had to make the decision, like what I'm gonna do.
Because then it changes the plans for like the procedures that you already had scheduled to have, because now it's not just about, not having children anymore. It's about
Not getting cancer.
Not getting cancer. Yeah, exactly. So then that changed that plan of like the type of surgery that you were going to have there, right?
Well, it made it easy for me because I wanted to have the hysterectomy anyways, but I wasn't approved for it because they don't approve you unless it's there's a reason for it.
A medical reason.
But I was like, whatever, I'm going to take out my ovaries, so why would I stay with my uterus and get my period every month? Still dealing with that.
Silver lining, not for nothing, no periods.
I was like, really? And I still have to deal with periods, even though I don't need it anymore, just because of the hormones or whatever. It was so annoying. Well, women, we understand. We don't want no more periods. It was like pointless.
So that was kind of a plus. So yeah, it kind of made that decision a little easier because of the fact that you already were down to not have kids anymore. So this cancer scare of, somebody telling you, hey, if you don't do something, there's a 60% chance that you're going to get ovarian cancer. But if you remove...
You have a total hysterectomy.
It's remove everything.
Very low percentage.
It's like a minimal, like 4% chance or something like that. I think I remember.
But it's like the lining of your...
It's like the lining of the uterus or like that area.
Like they can't say 100%.
Exactly.
You won't get it.
Yeah.
Because they can't.
So it goes from 60 to 4, which is, a no-brainer in that case.
The only bad thing, if I did have a hysterectomy, I will go into menopause.
Right.
Full blown. And I still haven't received any like bad symptoms yet. But because I'm on hormone patches.
Right. So they
regulate the symptoms.
Right. So like the hormone patches kind of replace, I guess, my rudimentary understanding is that it replaces or tries to supplement for the hormones that your uterus is not and ovaries are not producing anymore. And that wards off like the menopause, hot flashes and stuff like that.
Night sweats.
All that fun stuff.
No more sexual urges and stuff like that. So it's a lot of things that we don't know unless we're in that world. And I found out like, okay, so I'm going to go into menopause. I was like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. But until you're in there, you don't know what's going on.
Exactly. All right. So then you did the hysterectomy.
So then I decided, then we had like a telehealth with a surgeon. And she explained like I could take out the uterus and the ovaries, or I could just take out the ovaries and what the plus and the minuses was for both things.
Because there was one scenario where you take off, I forget which one, and it still produces estrogen or progesterone or something like that. So then you don't have to get on the patch. But then if you take everything out, you get on the patch, the hormone patch, which increases the risk of getting breast cancer. It's like a weird puzzle.
You get one thing and then it increases the chances for you to get breast cancer anyways.
Right, exactly. So it was like...
We were like, let's just take everything out. And that's what I wanted in the beginning anyways. It's just that now I have a reason, like why risk it?
Yeah. It made
it's better to have it less liable to have cancer at all.
It made a much more clear decision.
So then I scheduled the hysterectomy, and that was the first surgery I had ever done. I've never been on a surgery.
Besides, the childbirth and stuff like that, but that's not really...
Well, that's not surgery.
Yeah, true.
It's not like you get...
Yeah, I'm thinking like medical procedure, but yeah, you're right. So it's scary.
I was nervous in that. Yeah, because you don't know what you're gonna feel. Yeah. You don't know if you're gonna feel anything. Well, that's the fear. Yeah, that you're gonna feel something.
That you're gonna wake up in the middle of it.
Wake up in the middle of the surgery, or you're gonna feel something. You don't know how you're gonna recover. You don't know what you're gonna feel afterwards. Those are like the fears.
Yeah, the scary surgery unknown.
Yeah, well, you don't know. So then I scheduled the surgery. After I cried, like after the doctor told me all the results in the beginning, I did cry. I didn't like she's like, I'm so sorry. And I didn't understand. Like, I hadn't grasped that means that you have to decide if you're going to get a hysterectomy, which it wasn't like a big thing, but she, as a doctor, knows that it is a big thing.
Yeah.
Especially, like, if you haven't had kids or anything. Like, for me in that point, I already had my kids, but she's like, what if it's a big deal for you,
Yeah, right.
So she doesn't know my situation or whatever.
Yeah, true.
And then I was like, oh man, so now I have to decide what I'm going to do. And also, since I was going to be on the hormone patch to not get symptoms for the menopause, it increases the chances of breast cancer with the hormone patch. Mm-hmm. So that was a big thing too.
Because you're already at 40% risk based on like the genes and test.
Yeah.
And then
so
the patches could increase that.
Exactly. And it does say on the patches, so like your increased
risk of
breast cancer. I was like, okay, great. It's like you're curing one thing to get another thing.
Yeah. It's like you're playing whack-a-mole with fucking cancer.
Yeah. It's like scary stuff.
So after you did do the surgery, how did it feel, that first surgery? The hysterectomy?
I didn't feel any pain. That was the best nap. It's like you have to walk to the surgery table and they tell you to lie down and they tell you like, take deep breaths, take deep breaths. And I'm like breathing and I'm looking at the light, like that light in Grey's Anatomy and all those shows or and the dentist, that big light.
Yeah.
They have that. It's a huge light in front of you. And they tell you to take deep breaths and we're going to give me something to calm me down. And that's all. Like after that, I woke up.
Then you got that Michael Jackson nap.
Yeah. And then I woke up and you were there and telling me that it took like 3 hours, right?
I don't remember, but it was a minute. Yeah.
And I saw blurry and that I had like the hugest urge to pee.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
That was like the thing. But I didn't feel any pain like in the surgery site or whatever. I didn't feel anything. It felt like nothing. Like I had nothing done. Yeah. But I had to pee a lot. And I had to get up and go pee.
And you were kind of like sore and stuff, so...
I wasn't sore. It's just, but like when you're laying down for a long time and then getting up again is like, you gotta take your time.
Yeah.
Like getting up. But it wasn't that like I had pain or anything.
And I remember they had to measure your bladder with like a sonogram machine or something to see how much you're emptying and if you're emptying your bladder completely and stuff like that. They did that a few times. And yeah, I do remember that. I forgot about that. You know what?
I also had a sling.
Yes.
Added. Because of my MS, because I also have MS.
Which, by the way, we did an episode about years ago when Zoila broke down having MS, being diagnosed with MS, living with it.
Let's add another.
And it was, yeah, it was. God. That's why I always say you're the strongest girl I know. All the shit that you've been through and continue to go through gracefully. But for folks interested, I will link to that specific episode related to MS, which is multiple sclerosis, in the episode notes if anybody wants to go ahead and check it out. But because you had MS, you decided to get the sling pee thing because it helps with...
Yeah, and my bladder.
With not having to pee all the time.
Oh my God, because I always had like a urge to pee. Incontinence. I had incontinence. So when I went to see the doctor that was going to do the surgery for the hysterectomy, I told her that if it's okay if I wore a pad, because I had incontinence, so every little thing made me pee. Mm-hmm. Like I used to leak, by the way. In other words, I used to leak. So she said, I'm just gonna refer you to a urologist. Just go see them, and they could do the sling. Add the sling.
That they could refer you to a urologist to get the sling.
The surgeon, she said, I could refer you to a urologist, and they could just do the surgery add the sling on the day of the surgery of the hysterectomy. And I went for one visit. She said, cough to see if you leak for real. And I did. It was always an issue. I always had the urgency to pee, and I couldn't hold my urine that long. It's like a symptom from MS. And it had gotten better, like after I had my second child. I got out way better. But it was still a problem. And so I had it done on the day of the hysterectomy too. And it really did help.
Because they were pretty much like, vamos a aprovechar that we're in there already. We could just, while doing the hysterectomy, the other urologist can come in, put the sling in, whatever.
And I was going to be under anyway, so might as well
kill two
use
birds.
that time to do that.
Yeah.
So I believe that's why I felt like the urgency to pee, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's just because of the surgery.
Yeah, probably just like general soreness and shit like that inside,
But like after the surgery, I had to pee like every 2 seconds. Like every 2 seconds. Like I used to go to the bed. I used to pee, go to the bed. And then like a minute later, I had to call the nurse. The nurse take me back and they measure the pee. And then I used to go back to the bed. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for the nurse
And
because she had to come like every 2 seconds.
And they even give you a bedpan, I think, at one point.
No, they didn't give me anything. I had to go to the bathroom. And it was like so annoying. I spent the whole night like that.
Yeah.
And then they with a sonogram, a uterus thing, like a bladder monitor.
Bladder scan thing.
Yeah. They used to see if it was empty or not. And, eventually I got okay. But I stayed overnight that night.
Yeah, I remember
just so they could test my bladder or whatever.
And then next day you're out and came home. Then
recovery was really good. I felt like sometimes I used to feel pain. I used to take Tylenol and I didn't want to take no opiates. I was sure of that because I was, I've seen too many documentaries.
Yeah, we had recently watched Dope Sick and like that other.
I know. So I was like, no. I don't want my life to change that way.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like I'll take Tylenol and ibuprofen or whatever they gave me, like a muscle relaxer.
Yeah.
And I recovered pretty well. I didn't feel any pain. Nothing severe.
And then, so when was that? That was like in the...
That was July.
July of last year.
Last year, yeah.
So then, fast forward, the next thing that happens is either...
So after the hysterectomy, I was seeing an oncologist because of the breast cancer gene.
Right. Which is the BRCA one that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah. So I had to like constantly, like every 3 months, go to see the oncologist just so she could monitor my breast and do the touch breast test, and also like schedule the mammograms, the ultrasounds, and the MRIs.
Right, because they said that they would interchange one time you do a mammogram, 3 or 6 months later you do the MRI, then the mammogram, then the MRI, like that, something like that.
To always monitor my breast and that to make sure there's nothing weird going on.
Right, because of the higher percentage of breast cancer risk.
So that's pretty much what I was doing since July when I had the surgery until December.
And you did a mammogram and it was fine.
I did the mammogram ultrasound. It was fine.
Then the next visit, the 6 months later or whatever it was the...
Or 3 months. It was every 3 months.
Was the MRI.
Then I had the MRI scheduled, yeah. And I went for the MRI.
And that's where they picked up...
That's when they picked up
the mammo and the sonogram did not pick up. And that brings us to around Christmas time, and then they send you for the biopsy.
Yeah.
Right?
They said that they saw something really small. I went back, after the MRI, I went back for ultrasound that they go specifically to the spot where they saw.
Like a targeted area.
And they told me they saw something really small, but I should have a biopsy done to the area.
And that's around Christmas time. So then we go to get the biopsy.
Yeah.
I remember that day in like Forest Hills. And
So the
then
biopsy is one thing. That's a whole, other ball game.
that was like a painful thing, right?
It wasn't painful. I think I was more scared than it was really painful because they do numb you in the area. But like it's like a machine that's with pressure. It's like, I don't know, it's like a needle and they like let it go and it hits you. Like it's like a puncture. They puncture the area or the whatever it is. And they do it like 5 times.
That's
So
how they
they
get
like
like
let
the.
go. Pop.
That's how they pull back the tissue or something to test.
Yeah. And it wasn't painful or anything.
But it was like a weird sensation.
Yeah, it was a little painful afterwards. But I just put ice and it was okay.
Yeah.
But I think the nerves, like not knowing what it was going to be like.
Right.
And
that definitely adds to it.
It's like, okay.
The unknown.
Like, yeah, like you don't know anything. Like, okay.
Plus the whole, is this cancerous or not at that point? And it was around the holidays, so people were off. I remember it being literally right like a day or two before New Year's, I think it was, between New Year's and Christmas, like around that time.
Like having to wait.
Yeah, so we had to wait even extra for the results because,
it was a holiday.
It was a holiday. People weren't working.
Wait, yeah.
And then we get the results.
We had to go in, right? Like for the results.
I think we got the results. We read it.
Yeah, we got the results. We had my chart. And we read it, but we didn't understand.
Yeah, we didn't. It was in the medical jargon, so we started googling.
What we shouldn't do, which is googling, which we didn't get any answers, anyways.
We didn't get any clear answers, but it did seem like it was cancerous, which was scary, obviously.
And we had to wait until the holidays were over, and I kept on messaging the oncologist like, "Oh, can you just call me? Just tell me the result."
Yeah,
because I can't wait until like the following week or whatever.
Yeah.
But she was like, "No, I want to see you." I was like, "Okay, that's not a good sign."
Yeah. So then we go in and
and the radiologist called us, the one that did she did say
did the biopsy.
Yeah, she called like the day after, and she did tell us that that they did see something, and it does seem cancerous, but like they don't know specifically like what stage or what we could do, like what type of treatment. They don't have the details. So
Right.
I did know afterwards.
And to speak to your oncologist and stuff like that and follow like that usual protocol.
So then I had the appointment with the oncologist, and she did tell me that I had breast cancer type negative.
Stage 1A, which is the like smallest, the 1A, if I remember correctly, it's like inside, it's referring to the sides of it. So it's like 2 millimeters to 5 millimeters is considered 1A or something like that. And I'll try to find something to link to the episode notes if anybody's interested.
Triple negative.
And it was triple negative, which is an aggressive type of breast cancer, which basically means that it's triple negative to hormones, like the 3 hormones, which plays into what types of treatment they can give you. Because if it was positive for estrogen or whatever, one of the hormones, they could give you some sort of cancer drug that's, I don't know, estrogen induced or something, or attaches to it somehow. Like I have no idea how that like mechanism works. But basically, because it's triple negative, that means no other medications except for chemo, they explained, would be feasible.
The only option.
Would be the only option. And then also making the decision of surgery. If removing one side, removing both, like what you wanted to do, you're already at this increased risk. It's triple negative. We caught it early, thankfully, which they said was best case scenario. But you did have to make that decision, right? Of what you wanted to do in terms of surgery.
Both breasts or just one where the cancer was.
Right.
And she said you could just remove the breast with the cancer, but there's a possibility that you could get it on the other breast.
And then we'd be right back to the same
So
situation.
I was like, that's a no-brainer. Like,
No.
why? And I'm going to go through the surgery anyway, so might as well.
Mejor prevenir la cosa.
Just do it. Just do it. And I was like, oh, can I keep my nipples?
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, no, that increases the chances, too.
Right.
To keep the nipples.
And that's the plastic surgeon. So we're still at the like oncologist phase of it.
Yeah, that was an oncologist, too.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that part.
Oh, no. It was the plastic surgeon, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we had the appointment when I got the diagnosis. Then I had to see the
plastic
surgeon that was going to do the surgery and the plastic surgeon, which was going to do the
like
plastic
two separate
surgery,
appointments.
Yeah. So there was one doctor that does the mastectomy and the other one does like the reconstruction.
Right. So obviously it's scary news, but
like so many things. Like, okay, you have cancer. Yeah, okay. And you could remove one or you could remove both breasts. Or you could keep your nipples, but you're increased chance that you're going to get the cancer back.
Right.
So it's like so many decisions to make right there.
Obviously, life-changing decisions, either which way they decide to go with it.
Which is easy. Like, do you want to get cancer or do you not want to get cancer? Like
that in a weird way helps simplify like all those decisions. It's like increase the chances of me not getting cancer and developing cancer. What I wanted to say before I forget is that some women choose, famously Angelina Jolie did this, choose to get a mastectomy when they test positive for that BRCA1 gene, even if they have not developed breast cancer, which is...
Thank you for bringing that up because I was going to have the mastectomy done, but I was contemplating doing it when my son was out of school in the summer. So they told me that I had to keep doing MRIs and mammograms and ultrasounds every 3 months to monitor my breasts and to see that there was nothing weird going on. So I only did it once, the mammogram and the MRI.
And that
before I got my God.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was eventually going to do the double mastectomy
just to
prevent it.
But that this sped up the timeline.
Didn't allow me to get to that point.
So tell me, how was the mastectomy surgery to you, and how was it different from the hysterectomy? After you made the decision to, in terms of like pain. Actually, before you tell me that, I'm remembering this surgery for the mastectomy was also kind of like a 2-in-1. So after, like you said, we met the oncologist, met the surgeon, then we go to the plastic surgeon, which is going to focus on the reconstruction after everything, after the fact. Mm-hmm. And they all tell us a bit about their pieces of the procedure. But with the mastectomy, it was, main goal to get the cancer out, which I remember, waiting in the waiting room because that's like they also test the lymph nodes there to see if there's like any spread to the cancer at all. And it's where we would find out if obviously, like I've heard horror stories from back in the day. I was actually recently speaking to my mom when one of my uncles on my dad's side, when he had surgery for cancer, this was when I was a little kid, so years ago, he came here from DR. He got operated on. He went back. Then he had to come back and get like another surgery. And then when they opened him up to do the surgery, they see there that it's spread everywhere and there's nothing they can do. Which is crazy that's how, I guess maybe technology differences, that's how they were able to detect. But whatever, that was like part of a fear in me that, they realized something that they couldn't pick up with the testing and stuff like that. So while I'm waiting in the waiting room. So it was really like an alivio when after the surgery, I get the call that everything went well. And then I bumped into the doctor when she was leaving. And she tells me that everything went well. She didn't see anything weird. They got everything out. So no worries there, and that you were doing good and stuff like that.
Yeah, the day before the surgery, I had to go into the hospital. They had to inject a liquid into my nipple.
Oh shit, yeah.
So they could, the day of the surgery, it's like a luminous type
so they could find the
radioactive type of liquid that the day of the surgery they put another liquid in after I'm under. So it depends. It like tells you which lymph node they have to remove by that liquid. It's like the weirdest thing, but
It's nuts.
that was like a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
I was scared. Like it didn't hurt at all. I think I was just scared of what it would feel like. The unknown always is always the thing, because it was like my first surgery, like not my first surgery, but my first like injection into my nipple. Like what? So I didn't know what I was gonna feel. It wasn't painful at all. I didn't feel anything. So that was one thing.
Yeah. That was like a side thing. That's a whole procedure in itself.
So I survived that.
Then you have the mastectomy. We were already told that after, so they remove everything, then the plastic surgeon and her team come in and they put something in you called expanders, as well as drains, which are literally, it's exactly how it sounds, like plastic tubes sticking out of her with like pump looking things at the end. You know what it looks like? It looks like when you go to the doctor and you do
pressure cuff.
The pressure cuff, yeah, like the blood pressure test, and they squeeze that little bulb. It's like that. It's like a tube sticking out of both her breasts that wrap around her breasts, and it's draining like liquid and blood from post surgery. And they put that as well as the expanders in you, because after the fact, then you come home, and which was, I think this was like a tougher recovery definitely than the hysterectomy, because part of it is draining those drainers or whatever they're called, draining them and then putting them into little cups to measure how many cc's and writing them down, and doing that for a week. It was supposed to be, but it took you, I think, like 2 weeks, because they want the fluid to go down, or the amount of fluid that your body is expelling to go down enough to a certain point to take the drains out. And it took you a little longer than originally expected. Yeah, that was a whole thing. How did you feel though? Like during that time, that transition from getting the mastectomy, getting the expanders put in, which the point of the expanders is, they cut a lot of skin, they stitch everything up, tighten everything.
It was completely flat.
Completely flat. That had to feel weird as a woman.
I mean, it was weird when I saw it, because it's like a new thing to see.
Used to seeing your body.
And I sat by to my
yeah, me too. Me too.
I was like, bye. I'm not gonna see you anymore.
Yeah.
And bye to my nipples too.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother thing, Like you have to get used to the new.
Yeah, the new chapter.
The new self. It wasn't like really painful. It wasn't that painful. I mean, I was very consistent in my medication, like to not stop taking it. But it wasn't really like something that I couldn't take or stand,
Yeah.
So it wasn't really that painful. I mean, it was uncomfortable to be with drains.
Yeah, because you couldn't shower fully.
I had to take like
sit down.
bird baths.
Yeah, I had to. I helped you shower and stuff.
Yeah.
Sponge baths. Yeah, doing the drains.
I had to sit down during like baths and stuff like that, but it wasn't really like painful that I couldn't take.
You're just more uncomfortable than anything else.
Yeah.
And then then eventually after a couple weeks, the drains come out. We go for another visit. Drains come out, which they literally just like pull them out, so you feel them sliding around your boob and coming out the tubes.
They literally like just push it, and that feels really weird.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable. It's not painful.
But it's just like a weird sensation again.
Yeah. It's like you feel the tube sliding off. Mm-hmm. But you're numb. You're a little bit numb still from the surgery. And you do feel a lot of numbness.
Yeah.
Like around the area, around the breasts.
Yeah, because part of the, getting rid of the cancer is them
that was
removing.
One of the symptoms too. You feel like really numb.
Yeah, a lot. You have like some nerve endings around there and stuff like that. Because if not, then your skin could die. But it's very minimal. And
it's not minimal.
What do you mean?
I feel it around, like my breast is numb. Like my armpits are numb.
By the breast on the.
Yeah, like and around my breast is numb.
Yeah, like completely. You don't feel nothing at all.
Like I feel a little bit, like very mild.
Yeah.
But you know what the most uncomfortable thing is? When you're itchy, like you feel the itch, but when you scratch,
It like
doesn't relieve.
Oh shit.
So
That's
you
weird.
still feel itchy, and you like scratching. It's the
Damn.
weirdest thing,
That is weird.
and it's very uncomfortable. But
That makes
one of
sense.
the things.
It makes sense, but it is weird.
Yeah.
So then so at the plastic surgeon, they remove the drains, and they also do something with the purpose of the expanders that are there are to expand
The skin.
the skin tissue on the breast to the point where, little by little, you have to go multiple times to multiple visits. You go in, they literally just inject you to expand them, hence the name expanders. And the point is to expand your skin to the point of wherever you want it to be for when you get the reconstruction surgery.
Yeah, when you get the implants.
The implants.
I mean, there's a lot of options. You could just go flat if you want to, if you don't want to go through the surgeries, or just go like small also. But I wanted like a normal, normal for me.
Yeah, like where you were,
like
around
where
you
it was
were
before.
Now, so this is after all the surgery, after the drains come out, then we have to go into the phase of chemotherapy, which is a whole thing in itself. Obviously, everybody who hears chemo, especially myself, it's like a scary thing.
Imagine for me.
Yeah,
I have to go through it.
I know. That's what I want to ask you about. How is it from? Because they gave us the plan from the beginning, right? Which is, the mastectomy, go see the plastic surgeon. You're gonna need 12 rounds of chemo as a preventative measure. So like we knew the game plan, but to me, from my perspective, it's like, all right, let's get past the first goal, then we'll look at the next thing, whatever the next thing is. Then we'll focus on that. Then we'll focus on that. So now we're in the phase of focusing on chemo. That's how I just like in turn processed everything. How was it for you, as again being the one, like you said, to actually have to go through all the surgeries and then the chemo, and how has that experience been now that you've had the 10 sessions of the 12 sessions of chemo?
Well, when we went to get the diagnosis, they did tell us that I had to do 12 chemos. It's like 2 weeks and then 1 week off.
2 weeks on, 1 week off.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd go every...
So 1 week is of 2 medicines.
2 different types of chemo.
Yeah. And the second week or the week after is 1 medicine.
One of those same medicines, those same chemos.
And then the following week is the best week, which is the week off.
Yeah.
And then the best thing ever.
Right. And then the week after that, then you go back to the 2 chemos, then the week after that, the 1. And it's like that cycle. Until you finish the 12 sessions. And the process itself, well, actually, let me go back. So how did you feel knowing that you had to take chemo? And I guess like more emotionally, I feel like you would think about your mom who went through that and passed. How do you feel, having to take that on?
Well, I know you want me to tell you like, oh my God, I felt like a whole thing, but
tell me how you felt.
Really, like I really didn't think about it that much. I think that's how I went through it. Like, okay, I'm just going to do it. And the good thing is that I'm used to getting infusions. Right. Because of the MS. That's the treatment that I take. I take an infusion every 6 months. So that prepared me. Look, okay, I have to go to this thing every week instead of every 6 months.
Mm-hmm. To get an infusion.
Like not thinking about it, I think. That's how I went.
Right. Like, which is admirable in a way, because as me, which is why we balance each other out well, because I overthink it. Right now, somewhere in the back of my mind, I know I have to wash the car, and I'm contemplating if after this I'm gonna go wash the car and then get the kids, or get the kids and take them to wash the car, and like depending on
and I'm like
I like overthink every single thing. So it's an interesting balance that we have, that which is why we work well together, I feel. And
I don't overthink things at all. I don't. Like, I think that's the way I managed to get through things. Mm-hmm. Because if I pay mind to it, then I'll get depressed, and I like, why?
And that
put myself in that position,
That definitely wouldn't help. which would be normal and expected even. So, which is why it's even more.
And with my mom, like I really didn't go with her to get treatment or anything. So I didn't know
Like what she went through with the
what
treatments.
she went through. Like I saw her like going through it like afterwards, like after the chemos, like she used to go home and all that. But my mom also blocked me from seeing all those things. So I really didn't know what she went through.
Right.
So in a way that helped too, because I didn't know anything.
It was still like unknown, and you felt prepared, like you said, because it was like I get these infusions, which is literally an IV medication for MS every 6 months. Now I'm just gonna go get more infusions, a different type of medication, and you like used to like at least the process of it, the physical process of it. Before getting the chemo, though, something I just remembered was the port surgery. Yeah. So for the chemo, you either had the option of getting the chemo in your arm, but they recommended getting a port because you were going to have so many sessions and the chemo medication is strong and could like fuck with your veins and like really break it down and stuff. So a port is literally like a device that they put into your chest area. So it was like,
your arm.
Or your arm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know they could do it in arm. But for you, they put it in the chest area where you literally have like this device in there that's connected to the vein already. And then they seal you up.
Aortic vein or something like that. So,
and which makes it easier to like you have that device in you this entire time. So every time we go to get the chemo, it's in the morning. First stop is blood work. Like we wake up like at 6 something in the morning. Appointments are usually like around 7:30, 7:45. Get blood work, then go upstairs and see the doctor, the oncologist, discuss your blood work, how everything is looking, how you're feeling, and all that good stuff. And then from there, then go get the chemo, which they use that same port to give you the chemo medications from. Mm-hmm. And I remember the port surgery itself, which is another side
another
procedure thing, that definitely adds up. It was an outpatient, same day thing. But when you went to get the first drawing of blood, it hurt like crazy. You got nauseous. You were almost going to throw up.
No, but let's talk about the surgery.
Or the surgery itself, go ahead.
Because the surgery was like not the surgery itself, but recovery. It was really painful.
From the port.
Because it's like you could feel it, like something strange in your body. Mm-hmm. And since I was uncomfortable with the expanders because the expanders are not very comfortable either.
True. You feel like your skin stretching and you feel something hard.
It feels like you have a rock
in your chest.
Your chest, or a balloon, something foreign inside your body, in your breast area. And it feels really strange. So you're adding something strange to your body again by adding a port. And the recovery was not easy. It was painful, and you had to use it for the chemo.
To be able to get the chemo, yeah.
So like it's recovering, like a surgery is recovering, and you also have to use it.
Right.
So it's like, oh my God.
Which made it even worse. And then we got some good tips from the doctor of
the nurse
too, to put like lidocaine on it at like the cream before going in the morning so it could start numbing, and also eat something in the morning and take the nausea medication to
so the first time that they inserted the catheter inside the port, it's like a little square with a needle at the end, and they just have to insert that needle to the port, which is a round thing inside your body. You don't see it, but it's there. So I felt like the first time that they did it, she's like, okay, I'm going to count to 3 inside the port, and then count to 3 and put your chest out. And I was like, okay. She said 1, 2, 3. And I put my chest out, and that felt like I was being stabbed once. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to do this 12 times.
Yeah.
How the heck?
I remember you telling me that.
Because it was like the worst. It's like being stabbed. That's how I felt. Like being stabbed once and okay, go.
That's nuts.
Go and get chemo.
And what right? On top of that, for your prize of getting stabbed, go get chemo. Which is crazy because out of the mastectomy, the hysterectomy, like those big surgeries, like the port surgery is the shit that fucked with you the most in terms of like pain
and I thought I was gonna be okay with the port. I was like, okay, it's
I thought that was
port.
like a nothing. Okay, so then now, something we definitely have to speak about, which was news to both of us. Anybody else that I've mentioned it to had never heard of it before, so it's definitely a tip for anyone going through chemo if they want to try this. But they told us, the oncologist told us about cold cap therapy. And what it is essentially is a helmet-looking device that you put on, and it gets attached to a machine that pretty much freezes your scalp, freezes your head. Not literally frozen, although it feels like literally frozen to you. But it, I don't know if it's hydrogen or whatever it is, it gets super, super, super cold, like ice cold, turns to ice, literally. It feels like an ice pack, like one of those ice packs in the freezer. And it freezes your scalp. And the mechanism of how it works is that, you're getting chemo, it's going through your blood, it's cycling through your body. And that's why a lot of people experience hair loss and, go completely bald in a lot of cases because the chemo is so potent and strong. When the blood is circulating through your scalp and through your body, it just kills like the hair follicles and it falls off. But with the cold cap therapy, it freezes your scalp to the point that the blood doesn't circulate there, or as much. So it's the blood with the chemo. So it minimizes the hair loss, which you have experienced, hair loss and thinning. But if nobody knew you were going through chemo, nobody would even notice.
No.
Like it's been, and also it helps that you have very, very, very thick.
A lot of hair. I had a lot of hair.
Hair, before. Exactly. And, that was just something that, it elongates the whole process because you have to do the cold therapy depending on the chemos that you're getting for that day. But on the high level, you have to do half hour of the cold cap therapy before you even start the medication. And then after you finish the 2 chemos, if you're getting 2 that day, you have to do an hour and a half of the cold cap therapy afterwards as well, on top of everything.
And during.
Yeah, throughout the whole shit.
Yeah. So I was like, I didn't think that I was going to care. Mm-hmm. I was like, it's okay. Like, it'll grow back.
Yeah.
I think it's that same mentality. Like, no, don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's okay. Like, it's not a big thing.
And I was more on the side of,
you were like, no.
If there's a chance. Yeah. Because I'm thinking also from.
But I'm thankful that you did say that. Because it like, okay, so I should care like a little more, like, like wake up. And
and honestly, it has zero to do with my personal wants or whatever, because I don't factor myself in to that in this situation. But it was a twofold thing. I had a conversation with an old coworker of mine who had a girlfriend that went through breast cancer and chemo and stuff like that. And one of the things that stood out to me that he told me, shout out to Dash, is that one of the most traumatizing things of everything that his girl went through was losing her hair. And that he, as a guy, we're like, who gives a fuck? Like, whatever. Like, so he was kind of like, why would that be like traumatizing? But he didn't think of it as a traumatizing thing until it happened. And then realizing when it happened, how much it affected her. And she kind of had that attitude as you, I would imagine, that, it is what it is. That, and then also I was thinking of the kids and them seeing you. I feel like if they saw you, without the hair, which, obviously it's under nobody's control if they're going to lose their hair or not.
But if there's something that could prevent it,
that it would be traumatizing for them. So if there's a chance that you could prevent it or minimize it, as in your case, then it's definitely worth a shot. Even though it's not something that's covered by insurance, but it's.
But they could help you financially if you apply for financial assistance.
Exactly. And it was like, even if you pay out of pocket, I think it was like $2,000 or something like that. $2,400, and you could apply for financial assistance.
But it depends on the treatments that you have and the type of treatment that you're getting. So It all depends on that.
Right. But definitely cold cap therapy, I recommend it. And also like that icing thing, it sounds like a primitive thing, but seems to work for multiple things, not just the cold cap, but also patients ice their hands and their feet because they get like tingling and stuff, right? You've experienced that like on the hands? That I think you said it felt like
little ants.
Like little ants.
Ants on my hands, yeah. And it is painful.
I could imagine, like, if you feel your skin crawling, it's super uncomfortable, and you can't do anything about it. But with the ice, while you're icing it, less of the chemo goes towards your hands. You know, same type of mechanism. Less of the chemo circulates through your hands.
It's not a comfortable thing, but you have to do it like to feel better. Like the cold cap, it's in the beginning, it didn't hurt because of my hair. It was fine. But then when your hair starts falling out and it gets thinned, you do feel it a lot in your head. Like the first 10 minutes or 20 minutes of it. Like you feel brain freeze, like full on. Brain freeze. Like your eyes hurt, your head hurts. So I take Tylenol before I leave to the hospital. So that makes it better. But it's uncomfortable. And then your scalp goes numb. Because it's so cold, it just goes numb. Yeah. And then you don't feel it. And then you just like pressing to see if it's working. And it is. That's how numb it gets. Like you don't feel it at all. But the first 10 minutes, 20 minutes, it's not a good thing. But
definitely the cost, the benefits outweigh the cost.
But it does work. Yeah. I do see like it does fall out. The hair does fall out. I mean, I've lost a lot of hair. But like the main part that you could cover the balding areas, at least you could cover that part with your hair. Yeah. So, you know, like the kids, they haven't seen anything scary yet, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And now that you are almost done, well, at least with this chemo phase of it, because then you will be like officially done once you have the reconstruction surgery. But how does it feel?
But going back to the port, which made a lot of difference, putting on the lidocaine to numb the area before they insert the port or the catheter into the port. That did help a lot. So it's just a suggestion if you are going through it. I mean, some people don't feel pain when they get the catheter inside the port. So it all depends on the person. But I did feel pain. I felt the stabbing.
Pain worse than surgeries.
Stab, yeah.
Yep.
So, and I felt pain like recovering. It does get better. Like now I don't feel it.
But you're still doing the lidocaine and all that stuff just as a preventative. Yeah, that's an important point. So to wrap things up, how does it feel to almost be done with chemo? To me, it feels like exciting, and to get to the end of that phase of it, and especially not to have to see you going through that, and just like the nausea and how shitty you feel afterwards, which is something we didn't mention actually. How after
the chemos, when I get the two medicines, the two chemos, what I mainly feel is like nausea, and I have this horrible taste in my mouth. It's not a metal taste. It's like medicine, like full on medicine. Like if you put a Tylenol in your tongue and you leave it there, like that taste. And it's like triple that. It's like it makes you more nauseous. That taste.
Like it exacerbates the nausea.
And you can't taste food. Like nothing is enjoyable. Food, water, drinks, everything is like bleh, you know, like, and exhaustion. You feel really tired. Yeah. Like walking is hard. Everything is harder. It feels like
your body's just being down.
Yeah. I mean, you have a lot of medicine in you and you feel it. You feel like you have a lot of medicine inside you. Like, oh my God. Yeah. How do I feel that we're almost done? I'm very happy. And I'm very looking forward to the plastic surgery, the reconstruction. I guess that's what's pulling me through the whole thing. Like, okay, just get through this. Get through one more. Like I've been counting. Okay, one more. To get me through this. The silver lining is a reconstruction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the motivation. And that I want to be done with this too.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I'm very, very proud of you. And again, I'll say it again. I've told you before. I said it earlier. You're the strongest girl I know.
The secret is not to think about it. Don't think about it. Try it. Maybe it helps you. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, that was...
I just hope that this helps somebody, that's going through anything.
Absolutely. That was the hope for this episode. Hopefully somebody listens to it and learns something that they didn't know before, or gains some, like we said in the beginning, some hope, some strength to get through whatever you're going through now, if it's something similar. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening, guys.
Free Palestine.
Peace. And that, folks, was episode 266 of the Spun Today podcast. Thank each and every one of you very much for listening. Thank you once again to my lovely wife, Zoila. Thanks for taking the time, sharing your story. I'm sure folks will get a lot from it. And for everyone listening, for links and different things referenced throughout this episode, as well as some photos, go to spuntoday.com/podcast/266, which is the webpage for this specific episode. And please let us know what you think. Share your story within the comments, wherever it is that you're listening to this. And let's get a little community of support going around this. Thanks again for each and every one of you for listening. I really appreciate it. Please stick around for a bit more to listen to a few different ways you can help support this podcast if you so choose. Check you guys out next time. Peace. What's up, folks? Tony here. I hope you're enjoying the Spun Today podcast as much as I enjoy producing it for you. Here are a few ways you can help support the show. You can support the Spun Today podcast financially by going to spuntoday.com/support. There you will find a couple different ways that you can do just that, some of which will actually not even cost you a dime, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. When you go to spuntoday.com/support, you'll see my affiliate link to Amazon. Click on it and it will take you to Amazon's website, where you can do your shopping like normal. This will not cost you anything extra, but Amazon will pay me for driving traffic to their website. If you'd like to support the podcast more directly, you can do so by becoming a patron at spuntoday.com/support. You'll also find my Patreon link. This is where creators such as myself can be paid directly by patrons like you. You can either make a one-time donation or schedule recurring donations if you so choose. There are also different tiers of support, and depending on which you decide to go with, you'll also receive some perks in return, such as early access to content, free digital copies of my books, free bookmarks, etc. That is, again, by supporting via my Patreon link, available at spuntoday.com/support. Similar to Patreon, at that same location, you'll also find my Ko-fi link as well as my Buy Me a Coffee link. They work very similar to Patreon and are different ways that you can help support the show financially. And last but certainly not least, you have the good old-fashioned PayPal donation button. Any which way that you choose to support is greatly appreciated. It all helps me do more of what I love, which is writing and podcasting. Again, go to spuntoday.com/support. You can also support the Spun Today podcast by rating and reviewing the show wherever it is that you're listening to this episode. I'd really appreciate it because it really does help. Also, follow me on all socials. At Spun Today on X, formerly known as Twitter. At Spun Today on Instagram. And at Spun Today on YouTube, where you'll not only find full-length episodes of the podcast, but also chopped up clips and additional content. And of course, you can follow the Facebook page at facebook.com/Spun Today. Another way you can help support the Spun Today podcast and also upgrade that stale wardrobe of yours is by going to spuntoday.com/support and clicking on the banner for Stitch Fix. Once you do, you'll enjoy a $25 discount to your first purchase. And the way Stitch Fix works is pretty cool. I use it and I've never been disappointed. You'll set up a profile. You'll put in all the sizes for your clothes, as well as all the different brands and types of clothes that you like to wear. It's really simple and intuitive to set up. They'll show you pictures and pretty much give you a thumbs up or thumbs down option on if you would wear something or not. And you get to select all the brands that you already are used to wearing. With this information, there are thousands of passionate, trend-setting stylists will curate a Stitch Fix box for you. They'll send you 5 items that you get to preview before they mail it to you, and you'll get to select based on the image if you like it or not. If not, they'll replace it with something else, and if so, They'll mail it to you absolutely for free. You can try everything on, and you have a few days to send everything back or keep the stuff that you want to keep. Then you can use that $25 credit that I mentioned towards your purchase of those items. Again, to freshen up your wardrobe and also support the Spun Today podcast, go to spuntoday.com/support and click on my affiliate link banner for Stitch Fix and enjoy your $25 credit. Do you want to start your own podcast? Have a great show idea that you want to get out into the masses but don't know quite how to get it from your head out into the world? Well, here's how. Use the podcast host Libsyn. That's who I use to bring the Spun Today podcast to you. And now you can use them the same way. Using the promo code SPUN, S-P-U-N, you can open up your Libsyn account today and get 2 months of free podcast hosting. Here's how it works. Once you record your show, you upload it to your Libsyn account, where you can fill in your episode notes, upload your podcast art, and schedule when you want your episodes to release. Once you do that, Libsyn will take care of the rest. They'll distribute your show to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and all the other podcatchers that you choose, instantaneously and seamlessly. Again, go to Libsyn.com and use the promo code SPUN, S-P-U-N, to get 2 months free. Or use the affiliate link that's in the episode notes. Again, that's Libsyn.com, promo code SPUN. Take that great podcast idea from out of your head and put it out into the world. And as always, folks, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. Thanks for listening. I love you, Aiden.
I love you, Daddy.
I love you, Grayson.
I love you, Daddy.